First, red strawberry juice. Blueberry juice. Orange juice. Yellow mango juice. Which one do you want? I want the first one. I told you I wouldn't disappoint, right?
No, man, I love it. That's great. Thank you, Larry, so much.
No problem.
That was amazing, man. Was that your first thought when you thought about the song? They got to do something? That's
100%.
Yeah, that was it?
First, I'm not going to lie. I was a bit intimidated. I'm like, oh, geez, karaoke, man. When was the last time I did that? And I'm like, I gotta make a statement here.
Nobody does it unless they're intoxicated in construction. That's the thing about it. But no, I mean, I love that. That's great, man. That'll make the reel for sure. Larry, welcome to the construction life, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. We haven't actually talked about this, and I'm curious. I've got a lot of questions. I know you've been in the business for a while, but I mean, so we're going to talk about pools, but also basically servicing, leak detection, all that whole world, right? That's what you started as a business. Was it competitive back then, or is it competitive now, or what's the story?
Well, see, things like when I first started, well, I've been in aquatics for my entire life. So just like from like as a kid, basically, I was a pool rat. Like every weekend, like we were at the pool and then doing swimming lessons, and then that kind of progressed into the lifeguarding piece, which my brother ended up going, further into that, into the management side. I went into the service side. So I worked at a hotel in downtown. It's actually the biggest hotel in Canada at the time. And
which hotel was that?
Delta Chelsea. What was the Delta Chelsea at the time?
Okay.
So I just learned the fundamentals there. And I'm going to say, when was that? 2004.
Okay.
So that was just kind of just getting my feet wet, so to speak. And then 2007 is when I started the service company. Now, I'm not going to say, I mean, if you're kind of doing like comparison between what it was like then and now, you don't want to say the last couple of years have certainly made it more competitive. I think that's just because a lot of people are trying to jump in on the whole pool bandwagon, right?
Yeah, but you've got knowledge and experience, and
yes,
and you kind of dissect things, right? So
correct.
We got a lot to talk about, man. So
Yes,
let me just do a few shout outs here. First of all, I'm wearing Krim's hoodie here at H2O Plumbers. I've worked with them a few times. They're solid guys, so I like wearing his hoodie. Shout out to him. And then I got Larry La Gamba. Mm-hmm. That's it. So, and it's Pool Buoy, BUOY Leak Detection, 16 years, www.poolbuoy.ca, info@poolbuoy.ca, and it's also on Instagram, Pool Buoy Leak Detection, and also your personal, which is Larry.Lagamba, which is LAGAMBA.
Correct.
Where do we want to begin, man? You're a young guy, so you got started young in the industry.
I did, yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't feel young anymore, but
we all get older,
yeah,
man.
Exactly.
If we're lucky enough, we all get older.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can start like this in the beginning, just because I think there's a lot of backstory to that, which I want to share, kind of leading into the new project that I'm working on. So and this is something I think a lot of people can relate to in a sense, and that's basically that my decision to go on this path was not supported. And I'm not going to say
on this path or the new path.
On the Pool Buoy.
The Pool Buoy.
Yeah, the pool servicing path.
Wasn't supported by.
It was not at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't think it was a viable career.
No, and it was. I'm gonna give you kind of like the tip of the top of the iceberg a bit. I'm gonna go into saying that it was more than just discouraged. It was basically shamed. I was I was shamed, and even to points where like things were kind of sabotaged to kind of.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is your background?
In terms of, I'm Italian.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay.
Yeah. And the expectation there was suit and tie or bust, right?
Really?
Yeah. So.
May I ask what your parent or your dad does or your mom does? Or
yeah, you want to know the irony of it?
What's
My dad's a tradesman. Was a tradesman. He passed.
Listen, there's a generation, and I've spoken to a number of them. Mm-hmm. They don't want their kids getting into the industry.
No, they don't.
They don't. They work their asses off so then their kids wouldn't get into the industry.
Exactly.
So
yeah, see, the thing is, like with my dad, he unfortunately passed right when things were taking off, and unfortunately he didn't get a chance to see obviously where things went. He was a big supporter of most of it. He wasn't a supporter of the leak detection aspect of it because I required like an upfront payment for the equipment that I needed.
Yeah,
and that wasn't cheap, right? I was paying for it myself. So, but the other side of the equation, which is my mom, that's where things got really difficult. So that was an ongoing battle. On the home front, that
she wanted her son to be a suit and tie career,
and it didn't matter how much money was made. Like I would even tell her, I would say to her, listen, so if I was suit and tie making $20,000 a year, that's okay, but I can't get out there Yeah. So,
I know it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of ridicule, shaming, and a lot of dirty plays there. Which
you got siblings?
I do. Yes.
Did they go down suit and tire land?
My brother's a lawyer, and he's 4 years my senior. So you can imagine. Yeah. And he's a straight A student all throughout elementary, high school, university, excellent academically.
So you both guys take care of leaks, man.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. There you go. The thing is, actually, like I taught for 10 years, right? Elementary and secondary, actually.
Really?
Yeah. The first school I ever got a job at was just on Glen Ashton here, close by.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Post Corners. So I'm not too far.
Do you miss teaching?
I do.
Yeah.
I do miss the mentorship aspect. And then I do miss, obviously, the interactions with the students.
Shaping minds and seeing the potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, like, that's what my new path is going to basically try to gear more towards, is the aspects of teaching that I like the most. Right?
Are you tired of the business? Is that why or are you just looking to kind of expand your mind and trying to get new ideas going on in your life?
It's basically exactly what you just mentioned.
Okay.
So, I mean, I have an off season, right? So about 5 months, 6 months, right? And I like to keep active. I always like to kind of, push the ball forward. I don't like staying stagnant, if you know what I mean. And part of this is to have an opportunity to kind of work on something that's a little bit more to the heart, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the mentorship piece, especially in a situation like this, like I think we can all agree there is a serious need for tradespeople. And
that's a given.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it until the beginning of this past pool season when I had a hard time finding somebody, and I was willing to pay top dollar too.
Where were you looking?
I was all over.
It's kind of unfortunate because I actually saw Mike Rowe's recent podcast, probably about a month ago, and he was actually talking about statistics, and this is American statistics, and he was talking about men ages, I think it was from 25 to 55. There was a certain percentage, I think it was like 11 or 14 million of that group in America is actively not looking for employment.
Right.
They're not interested in employment.
Right. Pretty concerning.
It's a huge problem.
It is.
Wow.
It is. Now, I think we can sit here all day and spitball reasons as to why that's the case. If I'm to draw on my own personal experience, I just don't think and I'm talking trade specifically, I don't think the kids are kind of being engaged into it enough and at an earlier age and see the value in it. Because I
couldn't agree with you more, dude.
Yeah, and that's
telling you the truth. Yeah,
and that's part of the thing that I want to attack too. Because if I look at it and I look at my own personal story, my business, my industry saved my life not on one occasion but twice. And why would I not want somebody who maybe is going through a similar situation as me 15, 17 years ago to kind of help them in that direction too? So that's the mentorship part that I'm talking about. So kids that are in, say, toxic, dysfunctional families, for example, and I'm speaking
from experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need something that's rewarding, obviously, highly engaging, something that's going to get you to freedom and independence ASAP. You don't have 4 to 7 years in $100,000 plus in debt to basically spend on a degree that, might make you successful for sure, but you kind of see where I'm kind of going with this, right?
Yeah.
Trying to help and empower these kids that need that. And part of the presentation I have for students that I'm going to be giving is one of the parts of it is obviously what are some of the fastest trades you can learn and get into. See if you're in a jam and you really had to safely leave the nest like I had to. I was 20 years old, 21 years old when I left home.
I mean, I'm being told it's the top three. The problem with the top three, right, which we've always talked about, is HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, right?
Yep.
So they're recession-proof.
Yes.
They're steady work, but the problem that all the HVAC plumbers and electricians that I've spoken through in the industry and through the show, they just see people not driven.
Right.
And far and few, they'll find that one that is driven and they'll give them a shot.
Right.
But once they give them a shot, then they're learning and they're great. And then they're really hungry to be the foreperson at that point.
Yes.
So they want to be 25 years old making 70, 80K.
Right.
The numbers don't line up.
Right.
You can't that person's not ready to actually take care of that whole scope on their own. And funny enough, outside of, I guess I would say the plumbing and electrical, you need a crew. Like electrical and plumbing, you also still need a side person that's going to help you. You need an assistant, if not two. HVAC, you need a crew, 3-4 people that actually have to handle scope of work depending on the size of it. But you're getting a lot of people trying to get into that because you can learn it, you can get into it, you can get your tickets, but they lose a disconnect at some point and they start realizing, hang on a sec, I'm 25, I want to be making 75. And I've got this thing where it's like these young guys are chasing the money more than they are chasing the passion, and then they're going to lose the money opportunities.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now my question is, what is their background to begin with? Obviously, what's like what?
It's a variety, right? I'm not going to be profiling or anything.
No.
I'm not going to say, listen, it's the Europeans out there. It's
right.
not. I will say that the immigrants coming to this country are hungrier than the locals.
Right.
That's unfortunate.
Right.
I think that the locals have had it too good.
Right.
And I think that they've been coddled, and all of a sudden they're like, no, we want more. We want expecting more. And
well, we see like, I remember seeing a post, I think from Doug Ford, basically advancing these initiatives to essentially bring immigrant tradespeople.
Well, we have to do that because it worked back in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Right, exactly.
And that's how you built the force.
Yeah.
But now that force is retiring or passing on.
It's a huge gap there.
So we know there's a gap between the 50, 60, 70-year-olds and the 20, 30-year-olds that are coming in.
That's right.
And we don't think that the 20, 30-year-olds can sustain because of the competition.
Right.
We have way too much competition. Construction in its own entity has way too much competition out there. Like, why be a tradesperson when you could be a TikToker and make 6 figures doing nothing?
Right. I get that. That seems to be more glorified, right?
Yeah.
And that's the part is there is a bit of a cultural shift that needs to happen, in my opinion. Well, it's an attempt, obviously, because the thing is, and it's still out there, the stigmas, obviously the misconceptions, and all that stuff.
Blue collar crap, yeah.
The whole piece there, in my opinion, is how do you change that perception, right? Now, changing, I know it's a tall order, but regardless, sitting around, like it's something's got to get done with it. So if we can somehow get into, like, and part of my idea was you get into the schools, especially middle schools. That's when obviously.
Oh, I would love to see trades get into middle schools, right, man.
So talk about like presentations, grade 7 and 8, and that's when students are mature enough to understand and engage with the material you're presenting. You start to debunk some of those stereotypes even before they start coming up when they're in high school.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Start getting them excited. If we can get people out there that are passionate about the trades, excited about the trades, and they want to share their stories, I think that's a start. And if we do that, say maybe in a class of, say, 30 kids, you get 1 or 2 kids out of it who say, hey, mom and dad, this looks pretty cool to me. It seems like a good opportunity. Or we get the kid, for example, like I was, you need a way out, right? Like you're trying to get out of that.
It's a good point you bring up, because a lot of people get into the industry and they have their plan to get in and to build and to either start working for somebody and then eventually start working on their own. But they don't seriously think about how to get out.
Right.
And everybody has to figure out I mean, I have these conversations. I had a number of these conversations over the holiday break, how, first of all, we're all self-employed, so we can't count on the government for our pension,
no, not at all,
retirement, or anything like that. So if you're not coming up with a plan at the very beginning, you're going to be in trouble at the end.
Of course.
So it's kind of scary at that point. But that also goes to our competition.
Of course.
You can make loads of money doing a bunch of other stuff, but if you start living a lifestyle that is just consuming that money,
exactly.
Where are you going to end up at that point?
There you go. I think you can honestly find concerns with all aspects of it. If I look at it into, like, say, my teaching background, yeah, that pension is excellent, but if you can guarantee you're going to live to a certain age to enjoy that pension,
yes, that's the other thing.
There you are. There are no guarantees in that either. Like my dad passed when he was 56. So
it's young, man.
So say if I follow that similar trajectory, I would have been retired for 3 years at that point. And then and what kind of survivorship benefits are there to be passed on?
There aren't.
There you are.
They're not sustainable survivable.
Right. Yeah. So you can look at both, because for the longest time, what was pushed in my household, pension benefits, this and that, whatever.
Yeah. No, every household's like that.
And it's important, don't get me wrong, but listen, you could find obviously issues with both ends of it, right?
I actually wanted to bring up a point about, I know that I've had a number of shows where our guests were fortunate enough to bring up numbers.
Yes.
And I don't think a lot of people in the construction industry actually seriously talk to the younger generation of trades about numbers.
Yes.
Because when you actually calculate, like you mentioned, the lawyer and schooling. So if you've got all this, I mean, I go back to competition. Construction is always in competition to other career forms, right?
Yes.
So if you get into schooling, whatever, if you're going to get into just a business degree or a law or whatever, you're going to be paying six figures no matter how you slice that. Easily. But if you get into construction, it depends on where you're going to go. You might be spending at the most maybe 30, 40K or whatever to get your ticket to get started. And then you've got your hours from there and you go home. But the truth is that in your first year, you're already paying off your debt.
Exactly.
Versus all your competition. You're spending years paying off your debt.
Yeah, you're that earn to learn piece, right?
Yeah.
Which I have that in my presentation. I have a side by side comparison of a plumber and a lawyer.
How does that work out?
Yeah, so what it basically is in the end of it, that lawyer is making 115 after 7 years. This is just like I just took like a sample, right? And then that plumber with overtime, with side work, and with his base salary, he's making pretty close to that. This guy's six figures in debt. I think the total was 103,000 if I took undergrad 4 years. Law schools, I think it was about 103,000. Even that alone, like let's break that down a little bit too. So $103,000 in debt. This guy, obviously, there's a differential there. Say call it maybe 80,000.
Yeah.
Right? That 80,000, you could obviously invest, do whatever you want with it, have that grow over time. That's going to be worth way more than what that difference is in a couple of years.
That 7-year gap is huge.
And it could compound in of itself, and that guy's making money in that same time that he's going to school.
But here I go back to, listen, you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, and you're living that lifestyle. You're living that lifestyle.
Right.
So, okay, fine, whatever. You're making six figures, but you're paying off six figures in debt.
Exactly.
But you're probably eating out Monday to Friday.
Exactly.
You're having drinks with potential clients Monday to Friday.
Golfing.
So you're spending so much more versus a tradesperson. You're not doing that. You might be doing that once or twice just to build relationships and then go from there. So, I mean, it's disproportionate at that point, right?
It is. And obviously you're trying to maintain an image. So you're driving the nice car, you're wearing the fancy suits, all this stuff that costs money to maintain.
Yeah.
Right. So it does add up in the end, I think.
So, I mean, I got to commend you because that's a lot of valuable information that the younger generation, even the older, needs to hear. Mm-hmm. They have to get it. But, I mean, okay, listen, the government is not doing this. They're more about a political agenda trying to figure out a specific gender and ethnic base to get them into construction.
Right.
And I have a problem with that because that specific doesn't want to get into construction.
Right.
Why not focus on the people that want to get into construction and get them working into the industry?
Right.
Spend your efforts on that instead of your efforts to look good on a political stage. So I can't count on the government.
Get votes.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I can't count on them to help us get people into construction. So the last thing that I could ask them is, why don't you guys help us speak for you guys instead? But then they don't speak to us small mom and pop shops. They'll speak to the big union players.
Right.
At that point, it's the same thing. You're having the same conversation to a mirrors at that point.
Political game. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It needs to be a ground level grassroots situation. That's what it's got to be. That's how we can be authentic. Because let's face it, if we're going to be talking to kids they're extremely smart and intuitive. They can call BS. And they can look at you and tell you you're full of it or not. And once they determine that there's BS in play, they're checked out.
They leave.
Good luck.
That's the one thing I love about construction and tradespeople is that we do not like being sold.
Right.
We don't.
There's more authenticity here.
We want the truth. Exactly. We rather rip the Band-Aid off and just tell us the truth.
That's right.
We'll take the pain, we'll figure out how to solve it, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's construction. And I respect them for that, right? But we're still getting that group of people. But I can see you saying that, why don't we speak to these kids like that? You also, listen, I've spoken to teachers. Mm-hmm. They're not having these conversations in schools. They're not having them in high schools.
No, they're not. And the funny thing is, I've talked to a couple of parents and students in the area. I'm in Georgetown. And I had one lady telling me that her daughter is interested in carpentry.
Okay.
She's going to her school. She's trying all these different avenues within that school community. And doesn't seem like they're giving her much information to play with. So it almost seems like there's this institutionalized piece that's trying to keep things suppressed, if you know what I mean. So it's like, okay, yeah, you have your career day. Okay, so career day, what, grade 11, grade 12, whatever that is. At that point, most of these kids more or less have their minds made up. All this stuff needs to be happening. Really.
They've been influenced by their circle.
Exactly.
By their parents.
Yes.
Right.
So the idea is try to obviously get the word out there first. Kind of like, Michael Scott in The Office is like, if we get the word out first, we set the tone, we control the story. Somebody else gets to it first and starts influencing those negative stereotypes and misconceptions and what have you, they control the story. Yeah. And I get that. So it's like the idea is that if we do this, like I've been saying, then at that point we kind of set the foundation. We set the foundation. Then if those things come up, like, oh, tradespeople, they don't make much money anyway. Oh, it's dirty work. Oh, it's brutal career path. Well, they can look at it and deconstruct that for themselves and debunk those stereotypes and say, well, actually, you know what? We had a presentation. We had X, Y, and Z discussed to us. It's actually, that's not what was presented to us, right? So they have both sides of the coin before.
It's salesmanship.
There you are.
It's marketing. It's just they're marketing other career options better than we are. We're not doing a good enough job.
No.
And then I say all of us, like you have to be selling yourself at any given time. Like I've always told everybody that in construction, someone is always paying attention to whatever you're doing. So if you want to cut a corner, or you want to do a shit job, or you want to do whatever, something negative because you don't care about it, someone's going to see you doing that.
Of course.
And then that's going to be the impression that you've left for somebody.
And the reputation just keeps on. Exactly.
Yeah. 100%. So we can't continue doing that. Do you want to talk a little bit about pool?
Yeah, hey, love to talk about that. Absolutely.
I want to continue this conversation because this is amazing. This is great.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you've done it for 16 years. Yes. But I mean, so what exactly do? You get in there and you take care of what?
So what ends up happening is we get called in when pools are losing water, generally speaking, or exhibit other
commercial,
symptoms.
Residential pools, anybody?
All of it. We did the Toronto Zoo last year too.
Okay.
Penguin and hippo pool. It's pretty sweet. Yeah. It was my favorite project to date.
Were they hanging out with you?
So the penguins were in a separate room. We couldn't go up to them because they were going to get rattled by our presence. So fine, I took a video from a distance. And actually made it to a fundraiser too. So basically it was, I think it was mid-July, and the water was so freezing cold doing that one. I had a dry suit on that was leaking, unfortunately. So basically, I had a wonderful time doing that job. But like I'm telling you, the water was like 50 degrees. And
You're
it was
freezing,
summer
because
they were losing a foot of water a day there. So they kept replenishing. So the water temp was basically just like it comes out of the source.
Wow.
Yeah. So the idea is we do residential, commercial, swimming pool, water loss diagnostics, leak detection.
Yeah.
And there is a component with doing underwater repairs. The part in the commercial aspect of it with underwater repairs that we do is the drain grate repairs and replacement. So oftentimes we get calls from the municipalities, commercial properties. If those drain grates are broken, that pool gets shut down immediately because that's a hazard. Okay. So the rush is on to get somebody in there ASAP to rectify that issue. So because we're scuba trained and we have all the fancy gear like underwater drills and all that fun stuff, that's what we do. But that's a smaller part of the business. The major component is residential swimming pool leak detection. So using electronics, sonic listening devices, water loss computers, electronic liner scanners. I could go on.
So you're literally 3D scanning the whole liner to find what a penetration? Yeah.
So what it is basically we're using electrical currents. And it's called the Leak Track. It's from Anderson Manufacturing in Minnesota. And what it is basically it's a device that you use deck side, and it uses a trickle charge of electricity. And what it does is it creates these. So, for example, if there's a leak, say right here, it's going to send trickle charges of electricity to that leak to where it's actually where the penetration is, whether it's cut, rip, tear, hole. And then that system basically tells the operator with sound where that issue is.
What is it? It's like a sonar.
People think that's what it is. Yeah, it's different.
You're bouncing a signal or no?
It's just electrical currents. Yeah.
Okay.
People do tend to think it is sonar, but it's different technology. It's more like so. And then obviously we get the opportunity to go for swims, go for dives, and inspect and repair and patch. That's one part of it. For piping, we have pipe inspection cameras. So we essentially send cameras down pipelines to see for breaks. We have listening equipment to listen to where the leaks are in underground plumbing systems. It could get pretty intricate. If you
so there's like a number of reasons why pools fail, or is it just
Absolutely.
a line? So it could be anything at any given time.
Exactly. And the truth is that oftentimes when we think, the pool's leaking, there's only one problem. Our approach is to go in acting as if the entire pool is leaking. We're checking everything. So even if you find one issue in like say 10 minutes and that happens, we still continue to check everything else, because sometimes we find other issues that are contrary to what the report was in terms of the pattern of water loss, whether it was like pump on, pump off, what have you, right? So that's how we add value. It's basically complete check.
So I'm curious, why did you get into that?
So it's actually funny. Like at the time when I started, so I started the business in 2007, bought the kit in 2008. And the truth of the matter is I never took any courses. There were no YouTube videos. There were no resources of any kind.
So how did you learn? How did you?
Taught myself. So, but what got me there, and that's kind of like a whole piece with this, is I had a really good mentor in the beginning who pointed me in this direction. So his name's Jesse O'Connor. I want to tip my hat off to him because without him, I probably wouldn't be here. And I don't think he realizes, what he actually did for me.
Is he still in the business, or?
I've lost touch with him.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what he's up to these days. I hope he's doing well. But he was a manager at the pool supply place that I went to. So in the beginning, he kind of helped me with some of the technical aspects, water chemistry, chemicals, and he really guided me through everything. And then he said to me, listen, I really think you should give this a shot. Give leak detection a shot. It's like, you have to spend some money, but you know what? I have a good feel about this for you. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at it going, okay, this equipment is thousands of dollars. I'm living at home. I could pull it off. I said, why not? Sounds intriguing. There's only one company out there that's monopolizing this. Seems like a good opportunity. And it was going to be my own money paying for the stuff. And that's when the backlash came out even more. So like, what the hell are you doing? Thousands of dollars for what? Magic beans, you idiot. Oh yeah, I was getting completely torched. Like it was.
Did you present numbers to them? Did you tell them that, okay, I'm going to invest this much into the gear that I need. Here's my potential sales. Here's my potential You presented all this stuff.
Okay, so
got to take a little pause here. I want to do a quick shout out to Sabino. Tiles Install Plus Inc. is a installation company for all your tile needs. They specialize in residential custom work, pools, commercial, etc. They have a full installation team ready to tackle small or big jobs and multiples at once. Sabino Bove runs full operation, and with 20 years experience, no signs of slowing down. His company is in the process of opening its first retail location in Bolton, Ontario, just outside the Toronto area, and will offer a wide range of services starting with interior design, beautiful selection of trendy, modern porcelain and mosaics, and specialty tools for the tile trade. They are going to be your one-stop shop when it comes to tiles. Sabino is in the process of building what his father has started a long time ago, bringing up that tradition. And we wish him and his team the best. Please check it out on IG at tile.install.plus or contact them at tileinstallplus@yahoo.com. Thanks, Sabino.
You know that whole, like Sebastian Maniscalco talks about parent price?
Yeah.
So I had to give the parent price to my mom because even if I said $20, it would have been
Didn't matter.
Yeah, you're an idiot. Exactly. Yeah. My dad I was more forthcoming with, and while he supported the whole journey into this business, he wasn't supportive of this necessarily. And I just, for some reason, I'm just like, F this. I'm walking a straight line. I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, no training whatsoever. And in the beginning, there were a lot of screw ups, a lot of problems, a lot of learning, trial by error type of stuff.
But you're problem solving.
Exactly.
That's your business.
Exactly. So thankfully, being given that direction, and Jesse would always say, he's like, listen, I think 5-7 years you watch, this is going to be all that you do. And that's exactly what happened.
And done well with it.
Yes.
And everyone calls you and you come in, you problem solve, right?
We are the Ghostbusters, the Iron Chefs of swimming pool leak detection.
I know the last conversation I had was with a plumber friend of mine. He had a leak and it was driving him crazy because every morning he would wake up and watch the water just go lower and lower and lower.
It's
right?
Frustrating.
It's completely frustrating because you're paying so much money, I guess. And
exactly. And can you imagine if you just had a pool built, however many 100 plus?
And that generally happens. Like
It can.
Are pools being built too fast?
I'm not going to say. Well, here's the thing. Like, truthfully, pools can leak for a number of reasons.
Okay.
Like, in generally speaking, it's not necessarily the builder's fault. Like, I've had cases where landscapers accidentally drive spikes through pipes, not knowing where the pipes are. These things happen. Things do happen, unfortunately. Yeah. Manufacturer defects, which we've been seeing a little bit more of lately, have been happening. It is what it is, and generally speaking, they are handled with accordingly. So, but truthfully, like old, new, it doesn't matter. Oftentimes, people tell me, "Oh, it's a new liner. Don't worry about checking it. It's fine. It's all good. It's in the pipes. I'll get you just." Yeah,
but it could have been damaged during installation. It could have been damaged during use.
Exactly.
You don't know what fell into the pool or what's going on. So, and I mean, how thick are liners these days?
30 mil. It's, but generally speaking, if we see an issue come up. I mean, mind you, I've seen obviously impalements and cuts and gashes in new liners, but generally you run into seam manufacturer issues, which obviously is a full delamination of the welded seam. Yeah. And you could run into installation problems. Fine. I mean, installers are human beings too. Could be anywhere, truthfully.
Let me share a little history on pools here, man, Larry.
Do it up.
This is amazing. I totally love it, man. Pool Buoy, BUOY.ca, info at poolbuoy.ca, and Pool Buoy Leak Detection on Instagram, and also Larry La Gamba. First swimming pools were created thousands of years ago by ancient civilizations, the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans. These early pools were typically used for religious ceremonies, athletic training, and a symbol of wealth and status. The first known swimming pool for recreational use was built in Pakistan around 2600 BC. The pool was part of the city's public bath complex and was likely used for both religious and recreational purposes. The pool was roughly rectangular in shape and was made of brick with a size of around 12 meters by 7 meters. The first Olympic pool was 1920. That was in Belgium. What else is here? The first heated pool was built by Gaius Maecenas in the gardens of the Rome, like sometime around 38 or 8 BC, was a wealthy imperial advisor to Augustus and considered one of the first patrons of art. That's a little history of pools.
Love it.
There.
Love it. Nice.
Do you have a pool?
Yes, I do.
Of course you have a pool.
I do, yes. And that's the funny thing. Like, people ask me, right? Like, oh, do you have a pool yourself? Oh, my God. Like, it's such a headache, this and that sometimes. Not all the time.
Are they headaches?
Really, like, for the enjoyment that you get out of it, you have to put your work in. There's no question. Like, it requires a budget like a car does, right? Yeah. It's just like a car, right? It needs maintenance. You have to stay on top of things. You have to be on top of your water chemistry, or else everything could be, your liner, your surface could run into issues. Your equipment could run into issues. Bather comfortability and all that. You could run into issues with that.
Is a saltwater pool better than a chlorine? I don't know. I'm asking.
I'm going to tell you a secret.
What's that?
Salt water makes chlorine. I have a saltwater pool in my home.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I find it's easier to maintain. But it does come obviously with other caveats to it too. Like, it does have its own chemical dependencies. So you do find that pH tends to go a lot higher, meaning you need to correct that with pH down. The components have a service life, and when you obviously need to replace them after however many years, that costs a lot of money too.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in the payback piece where it's like, oh, you have a salt water system, it's going to pay for itself in X amount of years. Well, by that point, you're going to be replacing components, and that payback piece might not necessarily, those models might not be applicable. But having said that, I do enjoy the ease. I do enjoy the, I'm not going to say it's completely hands-off, but it is definitely a lot more maintenance-friendly. You're not dealing with chlorine pucks and dealing with chemicals and liquid chlorine as much, I would say. By chemicals, I mean the chlorine aspect.
But is it better for you, your body, your skin, your everything, or is it...
I find a difference. I find there's a difference. I know with my kids, they tend to, whenever we go to the public pool versus our pool, we do notice a difference. But like I said, I'm on top of my water chemistry quite a bit. Like if you have a saltwater pool and your pH is skyrocketing because you're not on top of it, you're going to be complaining of irritation, no doubt.
Yeah.
So I think a good system to have, like a dual system, is salt with UV or AOP, which is the Hayward HydroPure does have a model with, I believe both combined, which I believe I just picked.
Man, why wouldn't your parents be proud, man? It's science class. It's not that. It's construction and science class. It's
multifaceted. Yeah. Like there's obviously there's hydraulics, there's plumbing, there's a bit of electrical too, right? And that's a thing. Like it's, again, in the beginning, it's like, basically the thing is like, I'm a criminology major too. Part of that discipline is really trying to unpack things and really get to the bottom of why things are the way they are, why things are presented the way they are. It really does promote that curiosity and all that. And yeah, I find myself asking a lot of questions about things like that too. And as I'm kind of going on my own, I guess if you want to call it my own self-discovery path and personal development path, I ask myself these questions because ultimately it's important for me and how I parent and how I, right? And I think a lot of it's deep-rooted stuff, because I would even see it with students that I taught. Like their parents are dead set, no, you got to do this. This is your path. You're going to Harvard, and that's the way it's going to be. And it's all fine and well to want the best for your kids, but I think we need to really unpack why it is that we're doing that. And I think it does stem from an insecurity. So
100% comes from the parents.
Exactly.
What they didn't achieve in life, I want my child to achieve.
Exactly. And then there's another side to it too, which is an interesting one, which is basically, and I've seen this happen a couple of times, where the parent is threatened by the child, right? And essentially, nobody in this household or in this family's got to university. You think you're going to be the first one? What do you think you're doing? They're threatened by their abilities in a sense. And they're trying to do things to control the dynamics a bit more.
Wow.
And try to control their kids. Oh, you think you're going to do, really? Yeah, okay. And they try to shut down their dreams that way.
That's a whole other world.
It is.
So how long you been working on this whole educational side of the things?
It's a more recent development.
Okay.
I am currently in talks with the local school board to basically talk to grade 7 students.
How's that battle going?
You know what? It's been very well received. It is fairly new, I'll say. I've got a presentation. Everything's ready to rock and roll. Put me in, coach.
That's it.
I'm ready to go.
Because you believe in what you're presenting.
Absolutely.
You see the potential behind it.
Absolutely. And if I look at what my business, my trade, and my industry has done for me, why wouldn't I want that for somebody else who's going through something similar to what I went through?
I mean, I've joked, I don't know if I said it on the show, but I would love to see someone actually start a middle school trade school, specifically just trades. Sure. Every class, whatever, you're off to plumbing, you're off to electrical, you're off to all this stuff, man, and just get it started. But I guess a lot of parents, helicopter parents, will start thinking about liability, safety, and all this other crap, right?
It is liability when you walk out the door.
That's exactly it.
I'm sorry.
That's exactly it.
But I agree with you in saying that. Now, the interesting piece of that is, like 7 and 8, it's starting to get them excited. And you know what? Maybe they don't get into a career, let's in the skilled trades, but they can develop an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
They can develop an understanding and value for it, which, let's face it, that's what's lacking a bit.
They can take care of their own home eventually.
There you are. Exactly.
I'm surprised on how many people don't know anything
and basics,
how to maintain a home. Like nothing.
Basics.
Which is really, really scary.
Yes.
But that's also the argument back in school, where we're not taught to how to be budget conscious and financial literate, right?
Of course. But no, there's obviously a whole talk as to why that's the case.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's done by design, right? Of course. So maybe it's the same thing with trades.
I could see it too. Listen, I view it as a very viable and empowering career path.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hey, listen, I've been in both. I've worn the suit and tie, and after all that time, I decided to get into and continue with that business.
I'm not a water guy because I saw Jaws when I was really young. Right? So, I mean, I can only assume that scuba suits and all that gear is probably more expensive than some high-end custom suits that are made for people.
It can be.
That's what I figured.
It can get pretty expensive, no doubt, especially the dry suits.
Yeah.
And the problem is, like I had a couple of suits that obviously would, because listen, I beat my stuff up. Like we're using it multiple times a day. Fine. They start to leak. They require repairs. Those repairs aren't cheap. And then it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I'm spending X amount of repairs. Might as well buy another suit. So I've been through quite a few of them. And the scuba gear in of itself can get pretty pricey if you want high-end stuff too, like good stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about safety.
Yeah,
here, right?
Your life.
It can get pretty pricey. It's kind of funny to talk about suits and scuba suits. There's that one cartoon where the guy shows up to the restaurant in a scuba suit. Okay. And something like the caption was something they said, oh, I thought they said you needed a suit to come in here. Type of thing. So it's pretty cute. A lot of good little cute cartoons like that I like.
It's very cute, man. Yeah. I do want to ask you, since you're like Pool Buoy Leak Detection, I mean, do you have something to detect anybody who's taking a leak in a pool?
Then I'd be guilty as charged. I'm sorry. I'd be guilty as charged. That's why I'm not getting into that situation.
Kind of reminds me of way back. What are we talking about here? Yeah, Caddyshack. Caddyshack with the Mars bar and having to drain the pool, and then Bill Murray, right? That whole world.
Right. Yeah, and like the whole scare tactic of well, if you do, there's a chemical that they have that's going to be able to turn the water a certain color.
Is that a myth?
It's all BS.
It's all BS, right? That's what I figured, right? I mean, you're in a pool public. You already know that there's a certain percentage of that water that's not water.
Yeah, exactly.
Well. So where do you want to take the educational side of this thing, man? Because I totally kudos to you, man. Like I want more and more people trying to do that. It's a challenging effort, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. And I'd expect there's going to be some resistance. There's going to be some, it's going to be
it's funny. You're going to get resistance from parents.
I know.
That's the sad thing, man.
Bring it on.
Like, I really wish they would just shut up and let the kid find their path.
I know. That's the key.
See, I'm not a parent, so I'm not allowed to speak, right? Mm-hmm. The moment I speak, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Not true.
But just let the kid find their path, man.
Let them chase. And you know what? That's going to be the way they're going to find what their passion is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
You stick somebody in a box where they don't belong. Well, guess what? Yeah, maybe they might be decent at what they're going to do. So if you want them to be a lawyer or whatever, yeah, they might be a good lawyer. But if they were in a different line of work, say a trader, who knows what? I'm just throwing things out there. They could obviously tap into their full potential that way. And they're going to be happy. They're going to be able to bring that happiness to their family, right? Which to me, I think it's all, you know what I mean? It's all cyclical.
Well, it's an epicenter kind of thing. It's not necessarily that you're getting into trades and you're being a tradesperson. Mm-hmm. You may eventually become a teacher, a mentor.
Sure.
You might be an executive that's associated with committees that are actually contributing to changing the industry. It's all connected somehow.
Absolutely. Sales.
So at the beginning, you might be swinging a hammer for argument's sake, but the thing is eventually you'll be changing it.
Exactly.
Right? So you got to start somewhere. And I have a lot of respect for anybody who starts at the bottom, gets understandings of boots on the ground, and then starts changing things. The unfortunate thing is that most tradespeople, everyone that I know of, they don't want to get on that political platform.
Right.
They're the ones that should be voicing and changing things, but they don't want, because they know that they'll be asked to change.
Exactly. I think it's literally once you cross that line, like I remember it's in teaching, they would call it administrator's amnesia. The second teacher goes into the admin role, it's like they change completely. And I can see something to the same degree with what you're talking about in a sense.
Because it happens.
Absolutely.
It will happen.
Yeah.
And they'll be tainted by the money that's associated with that admin position.
And the power too, or the illusion of power.
Yeah.
Right. Even though the funny thing is, it just kills me. It's like, we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. We all have the same objectives. It's not me versus you.
So what are, Larry, like what are the stigmas? I mean, we kind of know them, the blue collar thing. So it's like, fine, it's a dirty job.
Yes.
You're having workwear and you're covered in whatever, depending on the trade, whatever.
Right.
And is it because there's a plateau for every single tradesperson? Like your salary at some point is going to just tap out.
Right.
And you're going to stay there and you're never going to grow from there. Versus other competing careers, I guess you technically keep on growing, financially speaking.
It depends, I guess. I mean, the way that I look at it is that from what I've seen, there's way more potential, like from a growth perspective in the trade piece. Because like, say if I take my teaching part, what are you going to do? Open up your own school?
No. I mean, teachers are getting screwed over now anyway, right?
Well, see, that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you have a department headship, which is what, a couple $1,000s extra a year, which for what you're required to do, in my opinion, might not necessarily be the, I guess, appropriate remuneration for that. You get into admin. And not everybody who wants to gets to that point. So, like we talked about, you have way more growth potential in the skilled trades. It's true, but I do know, like, it's not to say that that's not existent in other professions. The professional
you're fighting a bunch of things. I remember years ago, you had a lot of young guys that were on Tinder,
right?
And the moment they started telling the significant whoever they were trying to court,
I know, I'm
a tradesperson, my vehicle is a pickup truck or a van, they're not interested in dating that individual.
And you know what, I get that piece. It almost, I know what you're saying, that there is that barrier there because societally we don't.
So you're not interested in a person that could build you a home one day,
right? Or
have the network to build you a home one day.
Even though the funny thing is that individual might be way more successful than any other candidate that's on there in a couple of years or however many years you want to call
There's lots of arguments on both sides.
There are, but I just think we write the trades off way too fast,
way too quickly. I agree.
Way too quickly.
Yeah.
And truthfully, now I see all these numbers, all these gaps that need to be filled because retirement, this and that, whatever. This is an opportunity to strike for these guys, for these kids, right? So,
what ideas do you have for the trades when it does come to that getting out point? Is that part of your presentation to kind of, because I mean, you must be talking about getting them in.
Well, the thing when I was referring to that is essentially like the getting out piece. I was referring that like from my own personal situation at home.
Okay.
Getting out of that toxic household to get independent financially and mentally and all that stuff at that stage. Because realistically, where I was, 20 years old-ish, when things were getting really bad at home, I needed a way out. And this is what gave me the way out, right? I've since taken the ball and run with it. And I'm here where I am today. That was what I was referring to by getting out.
Yeah.
Getting out of those toxic situations, toxic households, what you want to call it.
Fuzzy, it wasn't until my late 30s, early 40s that I was like, listen, you're a toxic person. I don't want to be around you.
Right.
That's as simple as that, man. I wish I learned it sooner because I don't want to be around people that just don't want to contribute positivity, right?
Absolutely. Positive vibes. Yeah.
So, I mean, you could hate on and be whatever you want and have all this whatever and say all that crap, but I don't need to be around you when you're saying that. I don't need it to be absorbed into me.
No, because then no matter how we slice it, it impacts you to some degree.
It will resonate. You're going to hear it over in your head. You'll be working on something and your head will be clear. And those voices, those words, that sentence will come back into your head. And you'll be like, I don't like that I heard that. I don't like that I was told that. I don't like that. But I mean, I guess it drives you too because you start looking at, sure, I could succeed, but I could also fail. I could learn from the failure, but I could also succeed from that failure.
That's right. Exactly.
So it goes both ways, right?
It does. But for me, it's like, like if there's, and based on what I saw, like I know there's a lot of mental health things that are coming up when I was teaching. I can only imagine how it's progressing to now, given pandemic and this and that. There's a lot of stress out there, a lot of pressure for different reasons. But I got to say, at 20 years old, some kids might be even younger than that. Who knows? They're probably some of them are going through a similar situation, right? They need a way out, right? They need to be empowered to take that next step. And like I mentioned, they don't got 4 to 7 years and $100,000 to do it.
No.
Right? Good opportunity to strike.
Are they lost in general? Or are they just, there's not enough mentors out there, guidance, saying, like you said, Danny, was it?
Jesse.
Jesse, how he said that you'd be good for this. I don't think enough people are telling other people that you'd be good for this.
Exactly.
That you should try this.
Exactly.
And then let that resonate in their skull for a little bit, right?
And give them a full scope of it. So fine, if you want to have a career day with a lawyer, doctor, teacher, whomever, okay, that's fine. But give the full scope of it. Have skilled tradespeople.
Yes.
And an equal amount of them to really give their side of the story and have everybody else kind of make that decision. Get an equal representation of mentors available as much as possible. So I think a bit of it is on us to kind of push that ball forward.
I would love to do that, but my concern is that a lot of tradespeople would probably look like village people in the front of the class there.
I know.
But I mean, I'm just joking, by the way.
I know what you mean. All good.
No, but I agree with you because it seems like it's whoever has the more rock star career. And the unfortunate thing is that you'll see that from the teaching staff as well, that they'll probably give more time to a doctor or a lawyer or anybody else like that.
Hey, I'm teaching math and science. Why am I going to promote? Right, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. And there's a lot of pressure for kids to take maths and sciences, grade 11 and grade 12. And if you don't, well, then you're setting yourself up to have a pretty crappy career.
Well, surprise, surprise, you still need that for construction too.
You do to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, OYAP, and that's another part of it too. That's another program that would be, I think, should be pushed a lot more.
There's a lot of funding going into OYAP, and I don't know what the return on that funding is.
Right.
Working. That's my concern.
Right.
When I hear funding, I'm talking $50 million a year.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
And for $50 million, in my opinion, I should be seeing tens of thousands of people getting into construction.
Right.
For $50 million.
Right.
Of public funds.
Of course. You should see a good return on investment for that.
Yeah.
So I think deep dive, I guess you would have to get into what is that money being used for.
But that's back to the political
piece,
right?
Exactly.
So, and then you can't challenge that because the thing is everybody has to apply for that, present for that,
right.
Say, okay, well, listen, here are the numbers on that. But when you look at the ROI on the kids that are being pushed out of OYAP, it doesn't jive with the 50 mil going in.
Seems to be a running theme. Yeah. But I mean, like we talk like all the requirements, math and science and stuff like that. I mean, truthfully, some kids, I mean, to get into that, realistically, you need to take math and science, even academic applied, doesn't matter, grade 9 and 10, no matter how you slice it. Yeah. Right. OYAP, I believe, starts in some instances grade 11, grade 12 in that range. So by that point, I mean, I wonder if it would be a natural segue anyway. I don't think you can't get out of those OSSD requirements, grade 9, 12. But 11, 12 onwards, I mean, realistically speaking, some guys could get picked up for an apprenticeship without any of that stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
They do.
Yeah. So
that's based on the individual.
Right.
And their hunger and their passion and their interest, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just attitude. They're bringing a certain kind of attitude.
Right.
Which is not involving money.
No, it's not. It's
involving a skill in wanting to learn and be passionate about it, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, why do you see kids getting in and then getting out? Because a lot of kids are not lasting.
No, they're not. I do see there is obviously I did see a percentage about that as well. That's a good question. I think a lot of them do realize it's a bit, I guess, being tainted by, social media is kind of presenting glamorous.
I can't stand it.
You know what I mean? Like
somebody needs to start a page where we show the truth.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there's a bit of delusion to that too, right? And people thinking, oh well, why am I going to go get my hands dirty, and kind of seeing it for what it is when they actually get into it. But the thing is, I don't think they're able to make that decision and see it through to fruition because in the beginning, realistically speaking, what are you doing? You're running material. You're doing basic stuff. You're not getting into the meat and potatoes of that specific trade. So my question is, at what point are they dipping out? Is it in that first year? Is it 3 years?
I think it is. That's the problem.
I'd be curious to know exactly what point it is that they're doing that. And if any feedback is given on why they're doing that, because it's like with surveys in general, have an independent survey. If one hasn't been done, it could be done, and actually tap into that. Why did you leave?
But then it might also be the wrong teacher.
It could be too.
You might actually be in the wrong, going back to the toxic, right?
Absolutely.
It could be that you are hanging out with the wrong person or people.
It could a change of environment re-engage that individual.
Yeah. So we don't know. I'm just always curious on, I've always been interested in anybody that's been in the business for a while and has gotten out.
Yes.
And someone that gets into business right away in the beginning, and they choose that as an option, but then they leave and they go someplace else.
Yeah.
Like I want to know what happened in their life that made them make that decision. And then also, I mean, you kind of understand why the ones that stay, because they're still driven and they're passionate and they care about it. But they don't want to be in the same situation that the older tradespeople are in.
Understood.
They definitely don't want to be in that situation.
My question is because it's like with any other profession, like your motivation's going in. Some already know, listen, my plan is to get into business ownership or in management or in sales.
Yes.
So is it that maybe not realizing that the path to that is going to be a lot longer than expected? because I know even like in teaching, for example, some went into it right away off the hop. I'm getting into administration. So, and that's fine and dandy. That's cool. But what's the path between A to B? What does that look like? Type of thing. Yeah, I'd be really curious if a deep dive has been done on that. And if it's not, maybe one should be done, and that should be part of the funding pieces to understand why
it's difficult to attack. I really don't know. Yeah,
it's got to be an independent piece. It can't be anything tied to what's like any of these agencies, right?
But the thing is, that's the problem. Is that now you're asking small mom and pop shops, one man rental shops or whatever, to take on somebody that may not even last, and now you teach them for a bunch. Or then the flip side is you teach them a bunch and then they leave and go elsewhere and they take that knowledge and now they're gone.
And that's always going to be a risk, 100%. Yeah. You can't minimize that risk, I don't think, because sometimes you might take somebody on, that's happened, where you think, don't really see the ambition, really don't see this person doing that, and before you know it happens. Like,
how many people you got working with you?
This past year there were 3 of us. So
you had a hard time finding people too.
Four of us. So I had myself, Brendan, Cameron, and I had an admin person. So yeah, my main struggle is finding the full-time person. But thankfully I landed on Brendan, and things were fine from there. But the beginning was a struggle for sure, because I didn't want to just take anybody. That's the thing. It's a reflection of who I am, who my company is. So it was a struggle, and that's when it kind of hit me, and I'm like we got a problem here. Got a huge problem. And I'm talking to other people in the industry, same thing. Now, in our industry, it's a bit different because we're not regulated. We're obviously not licensed by any means. I mean, there are license aspects to our operations, but to be a pool guy, it doesn't really take much to do that in the ways of, set up your marketing, set up your website and Instagram and make it all look good and fancy. The fact of the matter is, do you need any legit education or training for it? You don't. So that's
should we regulate it?
I do believe that there should be. I do think it would be nice to have like a college program for pool tech, and there was at one point.
They got rid of it?
From what I understand, yeah. I can't remember. Was it Georgian? It might have been Georgian College. Okay. But would it be nice to have that? Would it be more? Absolutely. Like, kind of have it on level with other trades.
I mean, I find that particular trade very fascinating. Like, it's not just about swinging a hammer. Like, there's a lot of thought attached to that.
There is, and it's evolving at a rapid pace.
And I'm not saying that swinging a hammer doesn't involve any thought.
No.
I'm just saying.
No, I get what you mean.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, there is a lot of more. Your wheels are spinning.
Yes.
Like, it's not just go in and just get the job done. You have to figure out how to get in, get out, kind of work it, do it, all that stuff, right?
Of course.
So, and there's lots of risks attached, but.
Hey, no risk or no reward, right?
I always try with every single show to try to figure out if we can kind of contribute more and try to figure out what other solutions there are. But I'm hoping that people that are listening just keep on asking more and more questions and don't be afraid of speaking to people that have been in the business for a while, or even the older cats, and just asking them, like, where should I go? What should I be good at? What should I be doing? Just don't be afraid, man. I
honestly, like, you'd be surprised what you get if you stretch your hand out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was lucky with Jesse, very lucky with him. If it wasn't for him, like I said, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be at the point I'm at in my life right now without him. And then that led to meeting my other 2 mentors. And it's funny because one of them, he lives in Connecticut. Okay. And I reached out to him on an online forum. He didn't know, this was about 9-10 years ago. Didn't know who the heck I was. And right now he's still my mentor. I'm in touch with him. And
you just reach out to him, ask him questions, and talk.
And he gives me all the time I need. And he's always been there, just like Jesse.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and
they're out there. They're all out there.
Absolutely, they
for
are.
Every single trade. They're all 100%. Out there. Yeah.
And social media. Let's talk. The positives of social media is that the great thing is you can connect with these people, and the good thing is maybe it's somebody that might not be in competition with you. That might be a reason why they might be a little bit more. Because if you're going to talk to somebody that's in the same area, it might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
You're just going to think, okay, well, this guy's a threat to me. Screw you, which I get. Whatever, fine. But at the end of the day, like, it opens up your borders a bit to the point where you can connect with people in different parts of the world and discuss. Maybe they have a practice. Say I've been talking to somebody in France that's talking about his practices over there, and some of them are different, and they're actually they've been very informative. So, you don't know until you put yourself out there. So
I want to ask you a little bit of Green Book talk. I don't have OBC, so I'm not going to do OBC, but I do want to ask you what the fine is. Where is it? Worker failing to ensure that services are accurately located and marked before excavating. Ooh, so we talked about pools and all kinds of stuff. And what do you think the fine is for a worker failing to ensure that services are accurately located and marked before excavating?
This is like a prices, right? Guess.
Kind of, but there's no prizes, and there's no showgirls or guys or whatever, and there's no new car. So,
okay, I'll tell you. Okay. I'm gonna say 5,000.
It's $250, man. Isn't that insane? So you don't accurately locate and mark before excavating. Ouch. It's only $250. I don't understand these numbers.
Yeah, no kidding, because you could cause some serious damage.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Like $250. and that's Ontario, or is that?
That's Ontario. Yeah.
$250. Huh. And locate is free. I was gonna say, can you imagine if the locate costed more than the fine did? That'd be funny.
Are they free or it's some? Oh, it's all taxpayer. I don't know how it works.
On call, I believe it's free. I mean, I don't build, so I.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I want to ask you a few more pool questions. I mean, is it? Am I crazy to like black line pools, like or what?
You know what? They do look nice. I'll give it that.
Is everyone just scared because they can't see inside of it?
Oh, okay. You're talking from a safety perspective?
Well, I don't know if it's safety or just like mental anxiety or some shit. I just think that a black line pool looks cool.
You know, there's some liners. Honestly, there's one that's like it's got like a tint of it. What's it called? Butterfly.
Butterfly?
And it has a nice shimmer when the sun hits it. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. It's pretty neat. Actually, I'll send it to you after. But black line pools, the thing there is obviously you got to be on top of your water chemistry like crazy because it could fade very quickly. And then you see a difference. Water line versus underwater line, and it's like,
then it looks like crap.
Exactly. So there's different shades of liners. So you have light, medium, and then you have your dark, which that would be one of those. When I did my pool, I wanted to kind of go like in the middle because the thing is, if you go too light, any speck of dirt's going to look like the entire pool's disgusting. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there are customers that have the white liner, and that's what they came out. Yeah, that's what
risky. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, because then like if you're not cleaning your water line. Because obviously it's like a bath ring almost. It becomes really noticeable. Medium shade, you're kind of in between the two, where it hides the dirt to a certain degree, has a nice shimmer to it. I mean, mine does anyway. But it's obviously not going to fade as much as long as, like I said, water chemistry.
Is it better to go tile instead of a liner?
You see, it's a different price bracket, right? Different price bracket.
Dramatically higher, right?
It can be. I mean, truthfully, if you look at, for example, in the States where their pools are all year round in some situations, like you look at Florida, for example, they don't have very many liner pools.
It's all tile.
Yeah, if you go out in Cali, where another one of my friends operates a leak detection business, it's predominantly concrete construction, gunite construction.
And then it's just parched, right?
Correct, yeah, plastered over.
Yeah.
They could tile it. They're obviously waterline tile too.
Yeah.
It's, it could definitely be... But the key there is installation practices are vastly different because you're not getting a liner pool, which has the steel wall components into it. There's your forming, rebarring, your shooting, right? It's quite the process.
See, I would love a pool, but I would just love a lap pool.
Oh, okay.
I do not care about a kidney shape. I do not care about...
You don't even care about size?
I don't care. It could be as wide as this table, and it could be as long as it's like maybe 30 feet long, so I can just literally just lap back and forth. That's the whole point of it.
They've got ones that basically are like bigger size hot tubs with those swim jets.
Yeah, that's what some people have been telling me about.
Swim spas, yeah.
Is it good? Or how big do they get?
Good question.
But I guess how big does the number get?
That's the other side of it too. I've seen ones go like 30,000.
So you're talking about the current ones, right? Like
yes.
Where you can actually swim in place, and it's the current that's giving you the friction. Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct.
Yeah, that just sounds expensive.
Well, I mean, you look at what the cost of a pool is nowadays, like an actual in-ground.
I have no idea. What is the cost of a pool these days?
Depends on obviously size and
stuff like that. But I mean, is it six figures? It's got to be six figures.
Yeah, you can get to that pretty easily, I think. Because the thing is not just the pool; it's the surround. right?
Yeah, it's all the components attached to it, and
There
then
you
all
go.
of a sudden, then you have all the hardscaping, all the landscaping, and all the. We can't just have a pool. We got to have an outdoor kitchen. We've got to have a lounger. We got to have a gazebo. We got to have everything, right?
That's when
it starts to climb.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm not crazy to think black line, but I just got to be careful about direct sun at that point and fading and things like that. That's interesting.
It does look nice, really nice.
Anything else you want to share about pools?
Swimming pools. Yeah, I think kind of tying into what I mentioned before, like if you're a new pool owner, the key there obviously is get your water tested regularly.
When you say regularly, how often?
Once a week would be nice. Make it a habit. That's
you coming in to do that, or the homeowner can do that.
Homeowner can go to a store, and the good thing is most stores offer free water testing anyway. Okay. So you take your water test in, they will do an analysis. They'll record. Key piece there is to keep that piece of paper, document
reference
exactly in case for maybe there's a warranty issue and they try to kind of put the blame on a water chemistry issue. Well, if you don't have that documentation, you're SOL.
Yeah.
But if you have the documentation, well, then that's one less piece of ammunition that they have.
Yes.
So trying to and I've been educating customers, especially who walk into situations, new pools, new liners. This is something you have to make a habit. And even, get a test kit. You can get basic test kits for yourself. And you just kind of do the in-betweens. Because sometimes, once a week might not be good enough. Like if heavy usage, depending on obviously what the environmental factors are, a lot of rain, like you could alter the chemistry pretty quickly.
Is it worth spray foaming pools?
On the underside?
Yeah.
I've seen people do that. I've seen some builders do that and spray foaming the plumbing lines. For the intentions, underground plumbing lines, for the intentions of running them all year round. I can't say I know enough about it to be able to say definitively, hey, this is going to add, or this is going to be a difference of X amount of percent.
Cost savings or whatever, right?
I would like to think in theory it would. In practice, I can't say I've seen that. I'll be honest in saying it makes it a pain in the to find leaks in piping that's spray foamed.
That's actually really true.
Yeah, because
a leak in a spray foam, it could come out 50 feet away from where it is.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it's going through the path and the
spray foam is not waterproof. I quickly learned that. The only problem is that spray foam guys are the only ones telling me that it's a good idea to spray foam pools.
Right.
I'm like, a garage door guy is only going to be the one telling me to change my garage door. So it's just like, I want to hear pool guys telling me that spray foam is a good idea.
I'll tell you, from what I'm seeing, it's not common practice. Like I'm not seeing like, all these builders, because we come into new construction projects all the time.
I just figure you're kind of insulating the pool, so then you're not using as much, maybe not the heat lines, but the actual pool itself.
See, I'll tell you what a lot of people are, if we're talking about heat loss and preventing against heat loss, a lot of companies now are installing automatic covers. And that seems to be they're not cheap by any means, but I can't imagine spray foaming is going to be cheap either. No. The automatic covers are certainly a very good option to counteract against heat loss and all that. So that is commonplace. Yeah. Those covers for sure. And you have, obviously, if you want to go on a more budget level piece, you have the just the regular solar blankets, which just you roll by hand. Yeah. That has pretty good efficiency, up to 85%, give or take, depending on the product that you're using. Obviously, there's different grades of solar cover. And then there's a liquid solar cover, which is a product which some people will swear by it, some people swear at it, which is
liquid solar cover.
Yeah, so it's a chemical product where you pour in the pool, and it kind of creates like a thin layer on top of the pool to kind of retain the heat.
How do you get rid of it?
It always stays in there. So what happens is when the pool is undisturbed and there's nobody using the pool, it kind of forms that layer a little bit more clearly. Yeah.
So like, is it slime all over you when you walk in or something?
Not even, no. You sometimes you can actually see a bit of it on the surface. I've used it on my pool too. Okay. You could see that on the surface, but it's by no means something that's going to leave a residue. Yes. Noticeable residue anyway. Okay. Yeah. You
come out and all of a sudden you look like you're melting or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Something weird, creepy.
Like the Ghostbusters slime guy.
That kind of thing, right? Yeah. So, I mean, like, I just get the sense that getting a pool, you'll spend more time maintaining the pool than actually using the pool. Is that a fact?
Well, it all depends on how it's set up. Like, I mean, say, for example, automation is a great idea. I have automation on my pool, Hayward automation system, and I can control a lot of features on my phone. Wow. You can set the heat. So if I'm wherever, who knows, if I'm 2-3 hours away and I'm coming home, with the kids, we want to go for a swim, hit my phone, like a set temperature, and it's warm by the time we get there. So you don't have to leave it on the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? It's more efficient that way. You have robotic cleaners. Robotic cleaners are great at doing just the spot cleans type of thing to keep, and you could set that on a timer too. What I have in my house, like the automation, the robotic cleaner, the saltwater system, I do my water testing. You just have to be diligent about it.
That's all it is.
Exactly. Like if you think it's literally like you just put a hose in a pool, okay, we're good, and it's gonna be like that all summer, it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. And
I was like that probably like 14, 15 years ago, but it's not.
It's like you're there. You're there with a shovel in your backyard, thinking, okay, let's get the hole, put the water in, and that's it.
We're done. It's a pool.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore.
No. They're like cars, man.
I wanna just wrap up the show, get closer to the end, but I definitely want to talk more about the educational side of things, and I want to figure out. I know that lots of high schools were removing trade schools, and now it's far and few that you're seeing trade schools that still, or high schools that still have a trade room,
right?
A workshop,
yes,
right, or even a mechanical shop or anything like that. And now we're trying to get it back in, but I agree with you that it needs to get back in at the elementary stage and then carry it on through the high school stage.
Yeah, because I think the key there is that there are two things from my perspective. I could be off on this, but one is there needs to be a demand from it. Right? Like if the
demand's got to come from the student, it can't come from the parents.
And exactly what I'm saying. If you get the kids excited about it, they're going to be asking about it. And obviously it's, like I said, political ploy here where if they're asking for it, kids really want something, it becomes a part where they're trying to advocate active citizenship on their part. But you're right. It has to come from them. The excitement's got to come from them as well. That's one part. The other thing is, obviously, you can't have just Joe Blow show up off the street and teach that class. It's got to be an Ontario certified teacher that's doing that. Yeah. How many of those can we get from, because it's not like a Sheridan College or like other colleges where you don't have to have teaching papers and go to teacher's college and you're teaching that electrical foundations or whatever the case is. High schools, elementary schools, like you have to have your teaching papers. You have to be licensed and you have to have be in good standing with the Ontario College.
But the waters are being muddied right now because now you're getting privatized trade-related kind of schooling programs for like $10,000 for 3 months.
Yes.
And you get out of there and you don't have the skills that anybody is looking for.
And it's interesting. You're right about that. And the thing we could touch upon there too is that I always kind of tie it back into policing, even my own experiences. And I'm going to kind of give you my rationale in this in a sec. You ever watch that movie, The Untouchables, with Sean Connery?
Yeah.
When he's like, you want a fresh apple, where do you go get it? You get it from the source.
Yeah.
And his recruiting mantra was, you're not going to go to the police. You're not going to go to the, right? You don't want people with preset, who have already been trained a different way.
Yep.
You want clean slates, right? So the thing is, like some of these colleges, I mean, I get what they're trying to capitalize on, but at the same time, some of these employers might not want that because they want to train from scratch.
Oh, I know they don't want it.
Yeah.
I'm being told that they don't want it.
There you are.
But they're making a lot of money because they're convincing 18, 19-year-olds to get $10,000 from their parents.
Yes.
And to go to this, and then they're being convinced that if I get this education for 3 months, then I can get into the industry and go from there. But I'm sorry,
it's not going to work.
That's not where you start.
No, and they would much rather take you from scratch, not with any of that stuff, because they could train you the way they want.
You'll learn a lot more and you'll learn better.
I agree.
Being side by side with somebody that actually wants to commit time to teach you. Right, and train you. I agree with you totally.
It's like the police foundation schools and police forces. They're not pulling, and because when I was in criminology, I actually had some of your RCMP talk to me about it because he wanted to recruit me. And he said, you stand a better chance getting recruited by me, like the way you are, criminology student, not somebody who's going to, security guard or, they want clean slates, train from scratch.
You're already jaded, I guess. You already you come with baggage.
Yes. And even when I've been hiring, I didn't care if the person had pool experience or not because I was willing to train that person, right? I want you to learn my system, right?
You've perfected it over 16 years. Like you figured out the yes and no's kind of thing to do, right? So
because then what you're doing is you're taking somebody who has all these, different versions of training and this and that. You have to undo that.
Yeah.
And then you have to implement your own training module, which is, you're basically doing two things here.
So you got a presentation, you're ready to go.
Yep.
You're going to start presenting, you're going to start talking to people. So this year's all focused on trying to push this initiative forward, right? What are you calling it?
It's the titles actually have it here. I'll show you after. I'll get your opinion on it. It's Life in the Trades, the Other Side of the Stigma. And
I like it.
I can even just kind of walk through a couple of things.
Please.
So I obviously go through my journey, my story a bit, the fact that I've got the experience in the professional field and the trade route, go through that and discuss the stigmas and the issues in the industry, then go to the reality aspect of it and have a bunch of points that I elaborate on, talking about the flexibility, talking about the freedom, talk about the fact that the trades, truthfully, like if you go online or if you do your research and see, okay, what careers are going to be wiped out by AI and robots, skilled trades are not usually on that list.
No, they're not.
That's huge, right? So you're in demand. You're needed. You're not going to school. Like in teaching, for example, I can't tell you how many of my classmates were doing contracts and supply work for years before they landed their first actual gig.
Yeah.
Years, right? If I go to my friends in law school, not all of them, mind you. Now I'm talking about, students that didn't have the connections, for example, awesome academically, didn't have the connections. They essentially were articling for free because they couldn't get picked up. So that's 10 months. You're not making any money.
After you've already spent.
Yeah. It's a huge slap in the face, man. Right? There's that piece. I discuss, I start getting into current opportunities. So I kind of show like jobs that are currently advertised, what they're paying. I was actually kind of surprised automotive technician, auto body technician was.
Where's that
at? One was advertising at $140 a year.
I believe it.
Yeah. 3 years experience.
There's site supers that are being billed, like you can get after about 3-5 years, you can get to 160. So you're not even swinging a hammer. You're managing jobs. You're managing crews. And you're not even getting dirty, but you're in construction and you're making that kind of coin.
You're doing all right. Now, like there's a shift and there's more, I guess. I mean, the conventional method is obviously you work 50 weeks out of 52 the year and you retire at 65. Well, now what I'm understanding is kids are looking for more flexibility, almost like, okay, I go all out for say 3 months, a little bit of time off. Go all out for another couple of months, a little bit of time off.
Some are doing that.
Right?
And it works.
It does. Because when you think about it, what's the guarantee you're going to make it to 65?
There isn't.
Right? So enjoy a little bit of what you're working on now. Be smart about it. Be disciplined about it. I believe, like, for example, look at my trade, right? In the swimming pool industry. The winter's off.
It's kind of nice.
It's not bad. But I'll be honest, I pay for it in the season.
Of course, but
June
still.
Is mayhem.
But it gives you an opportunity to get the wheel spinning elsewhere, which is what
go.
you're doing with this program and everything. So there's a lot of, you keep thinking about reinventing stuff.
That's it.
So you're not, and that's the unfortunate thing with a lot of tradespeople. They dive right in. It's just like Monday to Saturday or whatever. And it's like constantly, it's a blur. It becomes a blur. And you got to, Ferris Bueller, man, if you don't stop and just take a break.
Yeah, that's right.
You'll miss it. Like, it's just so simple.
So you get the flexibility here, right? Like, and I think that's important. Like, and if you have a young family, that's key. I have a young family. Like, it's important to be able to spend
everything's doable. I mean, you're talking about generations that came as immigrants here and they made it happen. They put their kids through college. They did all kinds of stuff. They bought a house. I get, you can argue sure. Interest rates back then were 13 to 15%. Homes were less than 200K. I get, you can argue all this. You can keep on arguing about all the negative stuff, or you can figure out how to turn everything into a positive.
100%.
Those are the two options. Those are the two roads, man.
And that takes, it takes reflection, it takes awareness, and it takes action.
Yeah.
In the end, right? Like, I look at, for example, like my dad was hardest working guy I ever met. Like restaurant business. I eventually got into the restaurant business. He was doing pool hours all year round, like crazy. And I'll obviously indebted to him eternally for that. The thing is, he wasn't around a lot when I was younger. I'm trying to turn the tide a bit, right? So that's why obviously my business does allow me to give me that time, do pickup, do drop off, take my kids to swimming, all that stuff. So you get that freedom too. But it's also the freedom. There's the financial freedom. There's also the mental freedom too, where like if you do say, I'm talking from my perspective of business ownership, where you can pick and choose to some degree. Not always, but you can. Whereas if you're working a desk job, you're there all the time. You have no control over the customers necessarily. You don't have control over the people you're working with. And toxic environments.
HR visits.
There you go.
Because certain things were said a certain way.
Exactly, because you sneezed in the photocopy room, whatever, and you need to do mandatory training on whatever, how to sneeze properly. Whatever. Yeah. So we do a bit of that. I have the comparison of the two individuals, the plumber and the lawyer, and I really break down the schooling, the paths, the costs, and salaries. What else do I do?
I love it, man. It's great.
Like I said, I'm ready to rock and roll. Put me in.
Larry, man, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, man. And I'm glad that we got connected, I guess, through Kenneth, right? Morgan.
That's right.
You saw that show.
Amazing story.
And I love his story. It's great. Yeah. And even off mic, we were just saying, listen, man, everybody's got enemies. I got plenty of enemies. I fucking love them. They're great. I don't give a shit about them. So,
hey, you know what? At the end of the day, like, I guess this is where the awareness piece comes in. It's just like, like I've always been about questioning things and understanding the way and the human behaviors and why things
stop that, Larry. I guess you in trouble.
Yeah, well, but it helps you. It kind of takes the sting off of it a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
You're supposed to question shit.
You should be.
I embrace any young or old that wants to suggest a different way of doing something, because that means you're thinking about something. You're not just like, this is what's been done for the last 30 years.
That's right.
So we're going to continue doing it.
That kills everything.
No, you should be questioning whether or not that should be improved.
Of course.
And then we improve it.
And that's how growth happens.
Yeah.
Innovation, creativity.
I love it, man.
Giddy up.
Larry La Gamba, Pool Buoy Leak Detection, www.poolbuoy.ca and info@poolbuoy.ca, and on Instagram, Pool Buoy Leak Detection and Larry.lagamba. You ready for the 12 questions?
Giddy up. What
is your favorite construction word?
Applicable to what I do is legalizer.
Legalizer.
So that's the water loss computer that I was mentioning briefly. That's for manufacturing. Legalizer is what measures water loss in the pool rapidly. It's a rapid water loss sensor, and it's like when you bust that out, you feel like it's Back to the Future, like flux capacitor. It's time to legalize.
I think a lot of tradespeople are going to say, "I'm going to go to the potty and legalizer it." All right, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
what is your least favorite construction word?
I'm gonna give you two, because I'm a nice guy. Ultrasound would be one, because people tend to think that that's what we use. Oh, do you use the ultrasound? Well, I mean, like, what am I doing here? Like, am I looking for the babies, or like what's completely different technology? You know?
Why did it say it's an ultrasound? Does it look like an ultrasound? No, it doesn't look like.
Well, you see, the thing is, there's the terminology in what we do is it's sonic listening equipment, which is what listens to the underground pipe stuff. And then there's sonic and there's ultrasonic. Ultrasonic is it is used in what we do, but very rarely anyway.
Okay.
And I guess people kind of confuse it too. And Sonar too. Sonar is another one which does get used.
That was my first thought.
I know you mentioned that before, but yeah.
What's the second one?
Oh, it's ultrasound and Sonar.
Sonar. Yeah. Okay. What turns you on in construction?
I would have to say doing underwater repairs on a hot summer's day.
Hard?
Sorry, like
it turns you on. Sorry, it turns you on.
Yeah, turns because you know, like
that's refreshing.
Absolutely is. It's the best part of the job. I will, if I know full well your problem is in the piping, I will still jump in the pool to conduct a courtesy check, if you know what I mean.
I'm going in.
That's it. Suit up.
What turns you off in construction?
I'd have to say lack of consideration and foresight during the build process for future repair work. So accessibility, so encasing pipes in, maybe what we were talking about in spray foam, in concrete even.
Conduit channel or something, just to kind of, that's true. Future-proofing it.
Exactly. Like oftentimes you see people doing these nice, massive armor stone waterfalls, encasing piping in that. You can't really test it if you have no access to the piping, or putting features like lights and jets under a waterfall. Not only is it tough to access, but if you were to fix that, you're taking a repair bill that would have been $1,000 to $2,000 and making it $10,000 to $20,000. So you're basically causing an issue to the repair person, to the homeowner. Yeah, it looks nice, but functionality and practicality needs to be considered.
Because the truth is that any of this stuff has to be maintained. So it's going to need time to get to it later on.
Needs to be serviceable.
Got it. What's your favorite curse word or phrase?
I'm a professional, man. I'm a professional. I don't swear.
No
Phrase. I'll give you one. It's actually, I'm going local here. Pinball Clemens. And I attended a talk of his actually at one of the supplier conventions a couple of years back. And his line was, I don't care if you're about to go into 20 feet of flames or whatever it is. You just get in the truck and you go. Just get in the truck and go.
Just go. Does he ever stop smiling?
Oh, I love that guy. I love that guy.
He's always smiling.
He's awesome.
What's your favorite vehicle in the entire world?
DeLorean.
Old school DeLorean or this new one that they modified thing, whatever it is?
I don't know, man. Either way, you got to get me 121 gigawatts.
I like DeLoreans. I do like DeLoreans. I don't like what John DeLorean did running the business because he could have been the Tesla of the day
100%
back then.
Yep.
Right. But I do like that design and everything. I don't like the new design.
No, I don't.
That's just someone playing around with retro crap, right? So,
I'm old school. I like Back to the Future. So
yeah, it's cool. What's your least favorite vehicle?
I still don't get the rationale behind this. Like, this is a European thing, the 3-wheeled truck.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck?
What is that?
I don't know, man. Like,
well, tight corners, small streets, like that kind of thing. It's a trike, right? It's an ugly looking trike. But even trikes are ugly.
Yeah, like, can you imagine busting that out here? Like, he wouldn't last a day.
Oh,
yeah, so
I'm with you on that one, man. Totally. Yeah. What construction sound or noise do you love?
Love the sound that my equipment makes when you find the leak. They're different sounds, but it's just like sometimes you could be there for X amount of time and it's like the last part that you're checking. Up to that point, you're racking your brains going, oh my God, look at
where is it?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you get that sound. I was like, bing.
What construction sound or noise do you hate?
Anything that a landscaper makes. So saws, I'm gonna get saws.
They're all loud. Everything's loud.
Exactly. And you can't hear it. You can't hear a thing because the equipment's so sensitive. Even if they're a couple houses down, it's still.
Wow.
Tricky.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt one day?
Definitely continue with the mentorship piece, whatever shape form that's going to take. Take that one to town.
What profession would you not like to do?
I would say, and this is with obviously full respect to anybody in these, because I can imagine how difficult these are. Well, I already had experience a bit in the restaurant business. Restaurant business was one.
Tough.
That's extremely difficult. And the thing is, in that business, I mean, you could be putting all the hours and the effort and might not see it on the bottom line, right?
Talk about love and passion there, right?
100%. And I saw my dad go through it, and I was involved in it at the end there a little bit, so I got a taste of what he had to go through.
It's tough.
It is. Retail would be another, because obviously you have online, you have these big entities.
So much, yeah.
And you can see there's a lot of passion in these stores, and it's just that. You hope they're doing well, and obviously you have customers' expectations to deal with too, which we all have to deal with. But yeah, restaurants.
We all want to support local, right? So,
absolutely.
But it's challenging. Last question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates? I definitely would like to hear Him kind of explain and kind of get a little bit into like the rationale behind why there's all this suffering in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? There's some suffering, like, I guess you can kind of make a silver lining out of it if you want to put it that way. Mm-hmm. But then there's some that's just hard to really wrap your head around. And it's going to. It's a good point.
So you kind of understanding that, because that gets me sometimes when you see things. And then I'd want him to take me over to see my pops. And hopefully he's sitting at a nice outdoor cafe with a nice drink in hand. Seat available.
He is. Yeah.
Catch up.
Larry, thank you so much for being on the show, man. Really appreciate you and sharing so much, and all the best to you, man, in the pool and also this endeavor. And reach out to me anytime. You ask me, tell me what you want me to do, shoutouts or whatever I can do. You just let me know, man. I'll do it. I'll take care of it and just send it out there, because I think that what you're doing is what we really need to do, and more of us need to do it as well too. So please, everybody, check them out. Pool Buoy Leak Detection, www.poolbuoy.ca, info@poolbuoy.ca, and on Instagram, Pool Buoy Leak Detection, and also his personal, where you'll find all that information regarding the mentorship, is Larry La Gamba. That's it, Angelina. I think we're out of here. Thank you, man.